All right, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Alright guys, welcome back to another stream. This is Iridion 3D and Iridion II. These are shooters, not necessarily shmups. Well, the second one is a shmup. The first one is actually an on-rail shooter. Think like Star Fox or Panzer Dragoon, or more comparable Nova Storm or Microcosm or something like that. These are, they're the first one is kind of a mixed bag. Like, I really don't think the first one's a great game by any stretch, but it does look great. It really does sound great, and it shows off what the Game Boy Advance is capable of. The second game, Iridion II, is actually a top-down shooter, and it's actually pretty fun. It's a little long, but it also looks great. It also sounds great. And I think it's definitely the better game of the two, and one I definitely recommend checking out. But yeah, we're going to go through both games tonight from start to finish. Prior to this past week, it had been ages since I'd beaten Iridion 3D. I played this a lot in the early to mid 2000s when, the GameCube was still on the market. I got a Game Boy player right when it came out back in the day, and that's when I started investing in a lot of Game Boy Advance games, because then I could play them on my TV at that moment in time. And Iridion 2 was one of the games I checked out because it looked really cool. I was really big into shoot 'em ups back then in particular, so if anything was a shmup back then, like, I checked it out, especially if it came out over here in North America, and I really enjoyed it. And so I actually went back and picked up Iridion 3D, and that's how I got into Iridion 3D back then. And these were both budget titles. I think Iridion 2 might have been like a $20 game when it came out. In Iridion 3D, I don't remember. Iridion 3D was a launch title, but I can't remember if it was a full price game at like $30 or whatever, or if it was budget priced at launch, being maybe 20 or something like that. But for most of the Game Boy Advance's life after the launch period, Iridion 3D you'd see for like $10 brand new in box, like almost all the way up until the end of the GBA lifespan. Like, it's a very, very common game. So it's actually one of the most common games you can find on the Game Boy Advance. So if you like what you see here, if you've never played this game and you want real cartridges, you consider checking it out. It's not very expensive. Iridion II, I think, has actually gone up in price a little bit. I mean, even getting cart only will probably cost you at least 20 bucks these days. But it's a legitimately good game, whereas Iridion 3D is kind of like, it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. But when I was trying to relearn it this week, because again, it had been ages since I last finished it, it took a few playthroughs for it to click with me. There's some really bad hitboxes in Iridion 3D. It's difficult to see what can hit you and what can't, and oftentimes you'll think you can dodge something nice and clean because it looks like it should be nice and clean, but no, you'll take damage. And if you slam into objects in this game, you lose a ton of health. An absolute massive amount of health. It's like, I think like running into 3 objects will kill you. Bad hitboxes with nasty damage output like that can, it can make for a frustrating experience. But fortunately, Iridion 3D is not a long game. It's only 7 stages. Iridion 2 is much longer. It's going to take us 2 or 3 times longer, probably 3 times longer to get through Iridion 2. I predict this whole stream will probably be 2 to 2.5 hours long. So yeah. And like I said, we're going to go through both games start to finish on the default difficulty modes. So, is John Donnelly out there complaining again? He always complains. Hold on a second. Stop complaining, John. There we go. I don't know why that happens sometimes. Alright, should be fixed now, John. There you go. Your OCD tendencies can go away. Alright, so thanks everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. I saw Epic Jason X9000 out there. Thanks for tuning in, man. First stream apparently for him. Congrats on the Xbox haul, by the way. Cyber Demon, long time no see. Great to see you again. Carlos, what's going on? John Evan, welcome back. Kitsu. Brandon, how's it going, Brandon? Mark. Who else do we have here? Oh, Raymond was up there in the beginning, but I don't think Raymond's popped. Oh no, there's Raymond. He's back. Let's see. Mike! Mike is here, and Grinch, and Josh. Office! Liberal arts guy! Man, we've got the whole crew here tonight. Alright, so, yeah, before we jump into the game here, as usual, we're going to do the old Patreon shout-out. So thanks everyone that's continuing to support my show here through places like Patreon. I appreciate it. As usual, if anyone's interested in doing that, links are in the description box below, or just punch in that link on the bottom in your web browser or phone. Likewise with the recent live stream super chatters and channel members. Thanks guys for that. And let's go ahead and get into the game. We'll go to the options menu. There's not a whole lot as far as options are concerned in this game. There is a hard mode you can select, but we're not going to do that. You can change your music and sound effects and volume and stuff like that. And one thing I do like about this game in particular is it's got a music test right from the beginning, which is quite nice. These games have really good music, actually. And Shinyan, the company that made these, they really knew how to take advantage of the GBA sound hardware. And looking on the Wikipedia page, actually, apparently they've done soundtracks for a ton of games as well. And I went to their website to see if I could find a list of those. So I couldn't find a list of all the soundtracks they've done, but I want to look further into that because I want to know like what other games I've played that they've done the music for. I feel like based on the sound that I've heard in these two games, Iridion 3D and Iridion 2, I feel like I've probably heard Shinyan's music elsewhere as well, and I want to know what that is. So Shinyan's gone on to do a bunch of other games too. They did the DS launch title, I think it was a launch title, Nano Stray, which kind of like Iridion 3D, style over substance, and then they followed that up with Nano Stray 2, which was an actual, I think, horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up, which was much better, kind of like Iridion 2 was much better than Iridion 3D. And they went on to do a bunch of other games too, a couple of which that I've played. Fast Racing Neo is the most recent one, which was on Wii U and Switch, and then they've also done Nano Assault on the 3DS, and then there was also Nano Assault Neo or something like that on the Wii U, and then that was brought over to other modern systems as well. So they've actually done a lot of stuff, and they've done a lot of other stuff too that a lot of you guys probably haven't even heard of, because you know it might fall into like the Wii shovelware category or something like that. But they have kind of an interesting history. But yeah, this version does have a sound test. Iridion II has a sound test as well, but unfortunately. Unfortunately, you have to enter a password to access it, that's actually kind of annoying. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the game. Roy, my boy, was ignored. Where were you, Roy? Oh, Roy was there. Sorry, Roy. My bad, man. I didn't forget about you, Raymond. John Evan, yeah, this was an early release, absolutely. And hey, Nist, Jack Wareham, welcome back, Nist. And all right, so yeah, this is sort of a very basic on-rails shooter. You know, on-rail shooters are games where it's usually behind the back like this. You can move all over the screen, and you're pushed forward, generally speaking. Some games, like Philosoma, will do a twist on that and, you know, have you moving towards the screen instead of, well, towards you, I mean, instead of away from you, as we're doing right now. And this is actually more akin to, like I said, games like Nova Storm or Microcosm on, say, the Sega CD or 3DO or PlayStation or something like that. Those games were released on a bunch of different platforms. And basically what those games did is they used full motion video as backgrounds, and they basically had a sprite that you'd push around the screen. And this game is very similar in that regard. Now granted, it's not, I don't think it's full motion video in the background, but it's this sort of like, man, I don't even know how they did it. It's really impressive what they've done with these backgrounds. They all just are probably simple clips looped endlessly. And it's a pretty effective graphical effect that they pull off here on this game. And actually, I've already taken a bunch of hits here, so one more hit and we're going to die. So let's try not to die. Alright, so normal bullets in this game take away 1 hit point. And then colliding with enemies takes away, I think, like 4. And there we go, we've died already, so that sucks. And what sucks about that is there was a health refill right here. You get a couple health refills. There are these blinking objects, these blinking spheres in the playfield. But yeah, this has more in common with Nova Storm and Microcosm than it does, say, Star Fox. Whereas in Star Fox, you're actually, you know, moving around in a 3D polygonal environment, dodging, you know, actual 3D objects and things like that. In this, you're just dodging sprites, and that's where part of, like, the weird hitboxes issue comes from. And so there's not a lot of variation in the backgrounds. A couple of the stages have effects where like the background will change color as you go through the level. So I guess like the hue changes, which is kind of cool. One level you start off up in the sky and it's basically nighttime, and by the end of the level it's nice and bright like it's daytime or something like that. So that's cool. Even though the background graphical effect is pretty simplistic, you know, it's a small section just looped over and over from what I can tell. There are ways to make it more interesting, and they do that in this game, which is pretty cool. So I've actually kind of made it difficult on myself by dying in the beginning there, because that red shot would have actually been my max ability. So you can upgrade weapons twice, so you can get them up to level 3. You start off at level 1, then you go to level 2, then level 3 on your weapons. And so the level 2 on this red shot is just this, you know, it's just this dual laser, or this dual shot. Nothing too special. The level 3 is, it basically will be 1 shot, then 2 shots, then 1 shot, then 2 shots. Honestly, the weapons in this game are kind of weak. It's one of my least favorite aspects of the game. But what we're going to do is we're going to stick with the red weapon for a couple of levels. And then we're going to switch, I think on level 3, we're going to switch over to our yellow weapon, which is the most powerful weapon up until the end of the game. Or up until the last level. And then we're going to switch over to the blue level. Hey, Boston Burf. Boston Burf says he was super impressed with the graphics too, but disappointed with the gameplay. Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of this game. I mean, there are some people that really get into it, but it is very, very, very basic. There's not a lot of depth to this game, and there's not a lot of good feedback. Like when you're firing, it doesn't feel satisfying to fire in this. It doesn't feel satisfying to kill stuff in this. Like the feedback you get from when you press a button to what you hear and see on the screen, it just doesn't feel good, and you're just kind of like there along for the ride, and you don't really feel invested in it. At least that's like the feeling I get when I play this game. Hey Guns, welcome back, man. And all right. So this first boss is actually probably one of the more difficult ones, or the ones you have to be a little more focused on. So you've got to watch out for these yellow pods that move around the screen. And so you have to hit this thing's weak spot in the middle. And we just ran into that, which is bad. So generally the strategy I try to use here is I try to loop around this way and then not hit the yellow pods. But this boss takes a long time to kill as well, because your starting weapons in this game are fairly inefficient compared to later weapons in the game. I really feel like this boss should have been a later boss in the game, not the first boss. But what are you gonna do, right? So as a result, this boss actually takes longer to kill than most other bosses in the game. Now, there are no bombs or anything like that in this, so you're basically just stuck with your basic weapons here. Just had to get into a rhythm here. It's actually not that hard when you figure out the rhythm. Oops, and we're gonna die. Oh, yeah, we died. Not too worried about that. We should still be able to get through the whole game without an issue. You do get extra lives every certain amount of points. We'll probably earn 2 or 3 extra lives from score alone. And as long as I don't do too badly on later stages, I think we'll be fine. But dying this many times on the first stage is actually pretty pathetic. I'm actually tempted to restart, but I'm not going to restart. And Boston Burp says again, it's much easier to dodge stuff than actually kill anything in this game. Yeah, the safer strategy for much of this game is just to not kill anything and just avoid objects. And you're gonna see me doing that quite a bit over the course of the game. Now, unfortunately, I've got got a pretty crappy weapon right now. I've died 2 times, so we're back to level 1 on our red shot here. So normally I'm up to level 3 when I get to this level. So what I might end up doing is actually switching weapons, which is something I don't normally do when I play this. I like to stick with the red weapon because it's the best of your initial firepower offerings. Now, one of the issues with firepower in this game is you are limited to what the game gives you, and so you're not going to be able to get every weapon on every level. And you know, screw it. Let's just go ahead and get the red shot again. So shots like the yellow shot, you don't get until level 3, and then I think it only appears on level 3. So if you die with the yellow shot, you go back down to level 1 on that, and you've got no way of getting it back up, unfortunately, or powering it back up. So okay, that's fine. We're actually up to level 3 now on our red shot, so we're good. Although it's not really going to make a huge difference here. So I think we should get a health refill sometime in this stage. But hopefully I can get that. I don't want to lose another life. I did actually run through this game about 5 times earlier this week. Like, that's way more than I actually really wanted to play this, but now that I just woke up and I've just put some nasty food in my stomach and I'm not really focusing all that great right now. I'm not playing as well as I actually should be. I should be playing much better based on how many runs I did of this early in the week. But it's okay. Here we go, got another extra life. Yeah, so I mean, despite this game's issues, I still enjoy it when I'm used to it, when I'm comfortable with it. Because, you know, the visuals are nice, and oh, no health refill. Well, that sucks. The visuals are nice, and the music is really good in this game. And so, like, I can zone out. I have the capability of zoning out and just ignoring a lot of its problems once I get into it. So, I wish my life was in mode 7, says Roy. Ryan says, I never knew the GBA had such a game. Yes, it's got a... I don't want to say a couple. I don't know how many other games are like this on the GBA. There is a polygonal one called Star X, which so it's a little more like Star Fox. Not great, but you know it's still worth trying, I guess. And then there's Iridion 3D. Are there any other on-rail shooters like this on the GBA? I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't think of any right now. I seriously wouldn't be surprised if there was at least 1 or 2 others that I didn't know about. Alright, so we didn't get a health refill, so I'm probably going to end up dying here. But one strategy I do use on certain bosses is I literally just tank, and if I die, it doesn't really matter, because some bosses, I find it's really, really difficult to avoid their projectiles. It's hard to read where the projectiles are coming from and where they're going. And so on some bosses, it's just easier to just tank, die, and just kill the boss quickly that way. You know, as long as you get to the end of the game with, you know, with lives, you know, it doesn't really matter. If you're just trying to 1 credit clear the game or something like that, there's no... I mean, I guess you probably do get, like, you know, extra points for not dying and things like that. So if you're playing for score, obviously you don't want to die. But for me, I usually just play for survival. You know, getting that 1 credit clear is always satisfying. Now, games I really, really enjoy and really care about, yeah, I'll start playing those for score. But games like this, I could really care less, you know. So... yeah, see, like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to avoid that. You know, there's a lot of parts in this game where things just feel very unavoidable. And I think what I probably could have done there is I probably could have started down at the bottom and, like, slowly circled my way around for the, you know, for the duration of that guy, that top turret shot. But, you know, that comes with practice. You know, on your first playthrough, you're just going to get annihilated by a lot of these bosses because a lot of their patterns don't seem to make a lot of sense and don't have many rhythm or rhyme. I'm on the Game Boy player, and I am using the homebrew Game Boy interface software that you can load up with the SD loader on the GameCube. So it basically gives us better image quality. And since I'm running my GameCube into my FrameMeister, this FrameMeister has a zoom function. So the Game Boy interface software with the high fidelity mode or whatever it's called, it's the second option you can run. It doesn't display full screen, so with the FrameMeister I can actually make it full screen. Unfortunately, we're going through S-Video, so there is a lot of like visual noise. Yeah, hopefully I'll eventually get one of those GameCube HDMI adapters so we can get a nice clean image. But here we go. We've got the yellow shot right here. We're going to switch to this, and we're going to stick with this for pretty much, you know, up until the final stage. This backing tune's really awesome. I love this tune. It actually made a reappearance in Iridion II. So again, I played Iridion II first back in the day. So when I went back to Iridion 1, I heard, like, I think it's the stage 3 or stage 4 tune. No, I think it's the stage 4 tune in Iridion 2. And I heard it here, I was like, oh man, that hits home. I like it when games reuse, like, sort of, you know, I don't want to say iconic tunes, but, you know, tunes that really kind of like defined a game. I like it when future games in the series reuse those. You know, Castlevania does it all the time, for instance. And so the Iridion series actually does that as well, which is really cool. So, and here we go, like I was talking about earlier, and we're going to take a hit. Like I was talking about earlier, you notice that the background is changing color now. So basically we go from nighttime to daytime. We're gonna take more hits. Yeah, look at that. It looked like I could have squeezed through that, but I couldn't. Alright, yellow shot number 3. There we go. So we're actually maxed out on our yellow shot now. Unfortunately, we get some health here. You have to actually collect it. You won't get it if you don't collect it. I'm gonna use the burf strat. The Bossum burf strat, where I don't kill anything, I just dodge everything. Yeah, the thing about this game is, like, you feel quite inadequate over the course of the game with your measly firepower. I really wish they allowed you to upgrade further. And I also wish that they allowed you to mash the button to fire quicker, but you can't. You basically just hold down the button and it's got auto fire, and the auto fire rate is very slow. It's not satisfying at all. And I think, you know, even with the game just as is, with a few gameplay tweaks, I think this could have been a much more enjoyable game. You know, if you gave me the option to mash and fire faster, and I had more control over what was really happening on screen, it would be a lot more engaging for me. You know, still give the player the option to hold down the button like this. You know, kind of like Darius Gaiden is a good example. It's a game that has auto fire, and the auto fire rate can feel a little inadequate at times, but you have the option to mash as well, and you'll be able to actually fire much faster if you do that. And so when I play a game like Darius Gaiden, I'll sort of bounce back and forth between just holding down the button at certain parts and then mashing as fast as I can at other parts. You know, it's a good balance. Liberal arts guy, I do not use the Retron 5. I owned a Retron 5 and I sold it. Because it's just, I mean, it you know, the image looks nice, but it's just emulation. There's screen tearing, and there's a lot of input lag. So, yeah, I don't recommend the Retron 5 unless you've just got a big card collection. You absolutely have to use it. You know, if you're gonna get a Retron 5, just, you know, and you don't really care about real cards that much, just build a Raspberry Pi or something, or use your PC for emulation, or, you know, use one of the many other options for emulation. That's all it is. It's just emulation. So, and Christopher Margot, yeah, you know, it's funny you say it's like Galaxy Force 2. There's a level coming up. I think it might be, I don't remember if it's level 5. I don't think it's level 4, but it might be level 5, where you're actually out in space going towards like this moon. This sort of like moon base, kind of like in Galaxy Force 2, and it's got these objects all around the screen that are very much like a lot of the objects you see in, I think, the very beginning of Galaxy Force 2. So there's definitely, you know, there's definitely some homages there, for sure. Did my Retron have a death grip on the carts? It did, yeah. Those cart pins were very tight. I mean, the cartridge slot pins, I mean. And that is completely normal for the Retron 5, unfortunately, so... I should actually clarify, I've owned 2 Retron 5s. The second one only lasted like a couple weeks. Like, lasted as in, like, you know, I realized I made a really bad choice by buying another one. And I just sold it online, I think. There we go, that's the boss. So some of these later bosses, they just die really, really fast. Which is why I feel like the first boss should have been later on in the game, where your firepower is a little more capable for the boss. Hey, Andy. Probably not, Carlos, no. At least it's not on my radar, so. But you never know. A lot of stuff I do here is, and by the way, this is the level that looks kind of like Galaxy Force 2. It's a little bit like it. Yeah, you know, a lot of stuff I do here, like, it's on a list somewhere, but I don't always refer to that list. It just kind of depends on the kind of mood I'm in. Many years ago, I meant to do a Let's Play of Iridion II. I had practiced it. I did a full playthrough on Twitch or something like that. And I never got around to doing the Let's Play. And so, since I had the Game Boy player hooked up last week, since we did Circle of the Moon, I've been doing a lot of GBA stuff. And, you know, I thought I would try to revisit these games for maybe a live stream instead. And that was just unplanned. I just fired them up early on in the week, managed to make my way through them, and here we are. So Iridion 2 I went through once in a practice session. Iridion 3D I went through many times, trying to get comfortable with it again. Okay, so this is a health pickup right here. There we go. Then again, just avoid the stuff. It's pretty basic. Iridion, like I said, Iridion 2 is a lot more enjoyable overall. This one you can kind of, I don't know. I'm sitting here playing it right now, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to be playing this again. Sorry to people out there that love this game. I mean, it's a cool game, but I've had my fill because I played it so many times this week. Yeah, the best part of the game is absolutely the music. And the graphics, you know, the graphics are good, but they're not the best, because while the backgrounds and things like that look great, the actual, like, objects that you're shooting are so far in the distance and so low resolution, like, it's hard to even make out what they are. And I think that's a problem. For one, it makes it hard to actually see the enemies, especially if you're playing on an actual handheld. It's a lot easier if you're playing on, say, the Game Boy player, like I am. But if you're playing on, say, a GBA or a DS Lite, like I was earlier in the week, it's very difficult to see these guys coming, and that's kind of a problem. For one, they don't look good. Two, it's dysfunctional from a functionality standpoint. So the game is definitely a mixed bag in that regard. Iridion 2 actually kind of has the same problem to a much lesser extent, because Iridion 2, and you guys will see in just a little bit, actually, probably 15 minutes or so. We don't have that much longer of this game. Again, it's only 7 stages. Iridion 2 is kind of like Ray Storm or Ray Crisis or Sylphid, where the gameplay playfield is actually angled. And so the farther you go up screen, the smaller all the objects get, because they're in the distance. And so some enemies on that are actually, they'll appear at the top of the screen and be really small, and they'll be difficult to see. And then the objects will sort of scale up as they get closer to you, which can also make dodging a little wonky in that game. But it's really bad in this game, so... You know, I sometimes wonder to myself if these guys played a lot of Nova Storm back in the day. Alright, I think that's pretty much the boss. Once he starts exploding, that's it. So thankfully we get all of our health back after each stage, so... Yeah, well, yeah, one of the other things, Boss and Burf, is, I mean, the hardware itself, but also the, that whole ordeal where Hyperkin had basically jacked the emulators without getting permission, or without, you know, crediting the original authors, or even paying them for that matter. They just... It's kind of a dirty move, you know, and that, I think that soured a lot of people's opinions of Hyperkin. It certainly did me. That's not why I sold my Retron 5. I sold my Retron 5 because I wasn't using it. Actually, I think one of the big things about the Retron 5 for me, one of the reasons I sold it, is that I had started getting into upscalers and doing RGB, and then it completely became redundant by that point. But yeah, it's just one of those devices. It's kind of like, it was I don't know. I think there could have been a really good market for it, but between Hyperkin's kind of crappy actions and, you know, it just being, in a way, subpar in many ways. You know, the emulation, it's alright. And then, you know, the whole death grip on cartridges, the whole it having to dump ROMs and games having to be whitelisted or something like that for many of them to even work. So you'd have game incompatibilities. And then you know, if you want to bust it wide open, blow it wide open, and load up your own ROMs, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do so. I mean, it's possible. I don't know if it's been made easier over the years, but just there are a lot of things about it that I think could have been done a lot better. And I really feel like if you release a device like that, you really should just leave it wide open right from the get-go. Like, you know, if you're gonna have an SD card slot on it, on any device like that, if you're a company like AtGames or Hyperkin, you just leave it open. Let people dump their own ROMs. You know, if you're not selling ROMs on it, like, there's no liability on your part. You know, let me do what I want with my device. Just make it easy for me. But no, they didn't make it easy on you on the Retron 5. Yeah, so there are a bunch of different little small issues with it. I really liked being able to use, like, say, Super Nintendo controllers on NES games, though, and Sega Genesis games. You know, that was actually probably one of the coolest features of it that you don't hear, I think, a lot of people talk about in regards to the Retron 5. That was actually a really cool feature, but use of the console definitely became limited very quickly for me, though, once I realized how bad the input lag was. You know, because you guys know I like to play a lot of fast-paced action games, and whew, the input lag on that sucker is, oh man, it's something else. So, did you ever consider doing a live stream with both Doom and Doom 2 on Xbox? I probably not, Epic Jason. Well, I mean, who am I kidding? It's Doom. I probably will sometime. The issue is that I play Doom very quickly, and I play Doom. I use every button on the controller, you know, about as fast as you can. And what happens on the Xbox ports is when you play like I do, you end up activating no clip mode and God mode, and you also end up activating the ammo replenishment and like IDKFA basically. You end up activating that on the controller, and so I can't enjoy that version anymore because I play so fast and I play so complex that I just end up activating cheat codes while I'm playing, and that's not fun for me. So yeah, so I mean, if I play those on stream, it's not going to be anytime soon. There are other versions of Doom I'd still like to get to, but yeah, so we actually ran into that problem. I was trying to play the master levels for Doom 2, which came included on the Resurrection of Evil expansion, and yeah, I couldn't play it because I kept activating God mode by accident and kept getting all my ammo back by accident. Just because I'm playing the game normally. Like, it was a really bad design decision to include cheat codes as button combinations like that. It should have been like a menu shortcut. Like, you go to the menu and you insert some kind of, like, some button command or something like that way. But having button commands activate cheats in-game ruined it for me, so... Alright, so this is our second to last level. Fortunately, we didn't die on that last stage, so we still have our full yellow firepower here, and I need to make sure I don't get the red firepower or the green firepower. Yeah, and this is kind of weird too. Like, the guys that shoot at you on those, the circular patterns, they take way more hits than the guys that don't shoot, which is kind of jarring, kind of weird to me. Are the boss fights getting shorter each time? It feels like it, yeah. This is one of those bosses I was talking about where it's almost best to just tank. And so we're going to do that. We're just going to end up dying, most likely. Or not. Our firepower is... No, we still died. So as bosses are exploding, they can still shoot and you can still die as they're exploding. Which is also kind of frustrating, but who cares? We're on the final stage now, and the reason I didn't really care about dying there is that I'm going to be upgrading my firepower here anyway. We're going to go to the blue firepower, and the blue firepower only appears on this level. By the way, these guys shoot out homing missiles, and the homing missiles cannot be destroyed, and they block your bullets, which is pretty annoying. These fireballs that fall down from the sky, they can be destroyed, so it's good to try to take them out. These fire dragons cannot be destroyed. And, so yeah, you gotta watch out for them. If you collide into them, it's like colliding into any other object, so 4 hit points get taken away. And apparently if you collide into the missiles, it's 4 hit points as well. Oh, that's not good. Alright, health refill right there. Got it. Yeah, Chris, there's definitely inspiration from Galaxy Force 2. I mean, that's what it seems like anyway. See, this level is actually pretty interesting because, you know, and this isn't the only level that does this, but, you know, the first level you get to, it's like this, what seems like this almost FMV-like loop, background loop, just repeating over and over again. And there's some kind of stretching or morphing algorithm in place. I have no idea how they did it. But this actually has, you know, like a sky seemingly separate from the floor. Or maybe it's not separate from the floor. Nah, it's gotta be, because then in the far background you've got these mountains, and they are an actual, you know, separate layer from what it looks like. So not everything in this game is just the same, like, stage 1 kind of background execution just repeated endlessly. That's nice. Why was the FrameMeister a pain to set up? So FrameMeister, you plug it in, you turn it on, and there you go. I mean, if you don't have the translated remote overlay, though, then yeah, it can be annoying because it is in Japanese. But you buy the translated remote overlay, and then you're done. You just use the remote. Cyberdemon uses her PC for emulation. That's the best way to do emulation, to be honest with you. Your PC, a modern day PC in particular, will always be way more effective at emulation than any all-in-one device you can get for your TV. Things like the Raspberry Pi, you know, they're great for older systems, and if you just want to do older systems, that's fine. But man, a PC, you can do so much more with it. It's great. That's definitely the best way to go. If you really want a good emulation box, get yourself a PC. I use my my old computers as emulation boxes. Like, so my AMD Phenom 2 system from 2009, still a beefy little system for, you know, for older games, and emulation, it is just a monster at. It is a monster emulation machine. And I didn't have to pay anything for it, you know? I just, you know, when I upgraded my computer 2 years ago, or built a new machine, there we go. I basically had a second computer I can do whatever with, and so it's an emulation box now, and a multimedia device, and things like that. So things to keep in mind when you're upgrading your computers, or building new machines, or buying new machines. Now, having a big bulky desktop, say, next to your television isn't really ideal for everybody, but for the people that it is, definitely consider it as an option. You'll have way more flexibility. I mean, on my Phenom 2 system, I can do PS2 emulation. It's nice. You know, I can emulate the Wii on it. It's fantastic. Alright, so this is actually the last form. This is the last boss too. So this guy, I don't know if it's the exact same guy, but a similar guy makes a return in Iridion II. And in Iridion II is really annoying actually. And this is not too bad. Just stay between the two fire beams. And then that's pretty much it. The RGB cables. Well, I mean, that's something you have to get. If you're going to do RGB, then yeah. I mean, you got to buy RGB cables. But once you buy the RGB cables, you don't have a use for the old cables. And you don't have to use RGB cables if you don't want to. When you buy something like a FrameMeister, it's an investment. And you got to see it that way. It's not just like... it's not something you're going to drop 400 bucks on and just be like, whee, yay! It's like, there's still more work involved. You know, it's an enthusiast device. But it is relatively plug and play. For when the firmware update was super easy, the Japanese wasn't really an issue. There are tutorials online. So yeah. My FrameMeister has been just the ultimate workhorse for me over the last, oh god, 3 years almost. I mean, it's what you guys... pretty much everything goes through my FrameMeister these days. I've even stopped using the OSSC. OSSC is great, but it's not as convenient for streaming and recording on as regular of a basis as I do. You need something a little more flexible. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Is this on PS4? No. Definitely not. Yeah, that's the other thing, Will. So you might get a device that can do old systems really well. Like my original Xbox does, you know, NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, even Game Boy Advance really well. Genesis, 32X, all that stuff. You try to do PS1 stuff on it, and that's where it starts to suffer. And anything higher than that is a crapshoot. And so while it's a nice emulation box for old stuff, like, I want it to be able to do other stuff too. So it's like it just doesn't hit the mark. And a Raspberry Pi is going to be the same thing. There's always going to be something there that you feel like could be done better, and you're going to be looking towards the next thing that'll be able to handle those things better. There's always, like, for me, there's like that dream of having just like this ultimate all-in-one box that does everything. And right now, the only way to really do that is to have a PC. When it comes to emulation specifically. And that's one reason I don't need. So I bought a Raspberry Pi 3 like I think like 2 years ago now. It's been a while. I never set it up. I was just like, you know, I don't really feel like it. I'm not gonna use it. Like, the idea was to have this nice little tiny emulation box on my main TV, and I don't even worry about it anymore. It's somewhere in a closet or some kind of bin. You can beat this game on your way to work, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that actually took us a little bit longer than I expected. We're an hour in, and we just now beat the game. So I wonder how long that actually took. I know I didn't start the gameplay until like 20 minutes into the stream, but still. Alright guys, on to Iridion II. Yeah, I highly doubt a Raspberry Pi can do GameCube effectively. Maybe, I mean, I'm sure it can do it, but is it going to do it, you know, effectively to where you're going to actually want to play it? Probably not. So this is Iridion II. This actually has one of my favorite title screens because you notice there are 4 things down on the bottom of the screen, and you can actually move them up and down. So you have 4 different patterns for each, you know, lead, chord, bass, drums. So it's kind of cool. You can actually sit here and jam out to the variations of the title theme. Carlos, you have higher difficulty modes. So that would be your second loop. So you've got you have 3 difficulty levels in this one. And in Iridion 3D you have 2 difficulty levels. So you can play it on hard mode if you want. Same with this game. Alright, so one thing that kind of sucks about Iridion 2 is that it's password based. There's no save battery or anything like that. So what happens is when you fire up the game, if you want to retain your progress, you have to enter a password. And so we're going to do the medium difficulty level. So things like arcade mode, challenge mode, the gallery, the sound test, these are all locked. So you have to find passwords. Either you've beaten the game, they give you the passwords, or you've found them on GameFAQs and written them down. So it worked very well. Yeah, I find that really hard to believe, actually. No offense, Jack, but from what I understand, the Pi still has a hard time handling 32-bit generation stuff effectively. I have no idea how it would ever handle GameCube, which is a much more advanced hardware platform. So let's see. So I'm skipping around a video. I mean, granted, I'm not hearing the video, so I have no idea what the dude's saying. So I have no idea what I'm seeing is actually it running on the Pi. He's got an example of Sonic Adventure 2, and it's running super slow. He's got gameplay of Mario Kart, though, and it's... I have no idea. I'll have to research it later off stream. Oh, I see what he's doing. He's looking for devices that can handle it. And I don't think he found the Pi that can handle it. I don't know. I'll have to research it later. You know, let's see. Oh, come on, YouTube. Why did you do that? YouTube, seriously, what the hell, dude? It's supposed to open that into a new window. Ugh, it's gotta load the chat all over again. Yeah, YouTube, alright, I don't even... The link is gone. I clicked the link, it took it to a window in the same chat window. Or it took me to the video in the same chat window, which is not supposed to do. It's supposed to pop out in a, supposed to pop out in a new window. There we go. It's awful. Yeah, I'm reading the description. It's a GameCube hacked to go inside that case. Yeah, there's no way in hell a Raspberry Pi can do that. So, yeah, it's in the description. It's basically a hacked up PAL GameCube. Which is cool. I think that's amazing, but you guys need to be careful about the information that you spread around the internet, you know. People will take that and, you know, they'll think it's legit, and it's not. Okay, well, we got that out of the way. I mean, it's still really awesome. I mean, I've seen a bunch of other mods like that in the past. Those are always really cool to see. But yeah, I looked at his video, and I saw, like, a motherboard with ATI on. I was like, red flag. And I scrolled down to the description. He lists all the features and parts and stuff like that. But there we go. Alright, let's play the damn game. So we're going to do story mode, which is your basic mode in the game. And there's actually some voice acting and stuff like that here, and some other stuff. There's also training. We're going to actually skip the training. Yeah, so Iridion 2 is actually 15 stages, so it's over double the length of Iridion 3D, but the levels are longer. So this is gonna take us probably an hour and a half to 2 hours to get through. So you can choose auto upgrade. I don't recommend that, so we just do no. And so while you have a wide variety of shots in this game, I actually recommend just using your standard shot that you start with, that it defaults to. This game has an upgrade system kind of like Gradius, where you pick up power-ups in the playfield, and then you activate them by pressing, if you press the B button. Also, if you double tap the buttons, you can, or double tap your fire button, you can actually charge up, like so. And unleash a relatively powerful attack. You've also got pods that sit to the side of you. By pressing up or down, you'll rotate them up or down. And by pressing select, you can lock them into place. What I usually do when I play this is I lock them up in this position because they can absorb bullets. Wonder Leia, welcome to the stream. There we go, and you can upgrade each weapon twice, I believe. So we're pretty much maxed out on this weapon, and any future power-up we can get, we can actually cycle through our weapons with that and activate them. So here's one, we go over here, activate this guy, and we'll activate it again. Now, one thing I don't like about this game is that your firepower resets after every level, which kind of makes the upgrade system relatively moot. Now, I don't know if it does that on the easiest difficulty. I haven't played that mode. I've always played on the medium difficulty in this game. It's kind of a bummer having to re-upgrade your stuff after every level, which is why I just stick with this main shot here. It's the easiest to get upgraded and have it be really effective. It's also quite effective just in its weak state as well, whereas some of the other weapons, maybe not so much. Now, so what I could do here is actually go and upgrade other weapons for the rest of the stage, or I could just bank the power-up. You'll notice in the top right-hand portion of the screen, my straight shot is red, or basically a red square occupies, you know, any of the weapon slots up there. That means I have a power-up I can use. If I don't use it, I can just leave it. And if you use it on a weapon that's already maxed out, you'll get health back. So in the top left portion of the screen, you've got a shield meter. And so what I do is I usually just bank my last power-up and then just use it when I need to get health back. So like I'll use it right now. There we go. I got all my shield back. You get so much shield back from it though that you're better off taking at least a hit or two before you actually use it to get life back. Now you also have bombs in this game. You do that by pressing both triggers together. And the bombs are denoted in the, you know, underneath your shield meter. Now, this game has a system in place where you get rated for your accuracy percentage, and you'll be awarded points at the end of each level for that. And so while you can charge up and do a slightly more powerful attack, what I like to do is just shoot normally and have all my bullets connect, because that raises my accuracy percentage, which then gives me more points at the end of each level. Liberal Arts Guy, you do know that there are HDMI cables for GameCube as well, right? You don't need Wii to HDMI for that. One thing that's great about the Wii is that you can use the component cables and play your GameCube games in progressive scan. Which obviously you can do on an actual GameCube, but the GameCube component cables are ridiculously expensive. So the Wii is probably the most affordable way to play GameCube games with the best video quality. So, you know, everyone's probably got a Wii, or every shop has got a Wii kicking around that you can pick up, and the component cables on that are still pretty cheap. Very cheap, actually. So, it's just something to consider. I mainly keep my GameCube around for the Game Boy player. Otherwise, I really have no use for it, because the Wii can do GameCube games. I don't need my GameCube for that. I have the GameCube for the Game Boy player, and that's it. Now that I've got the Game Boy interface software, you know, it looks great. But I still need to get a better video solution on my GameCube, which is going to either involve me getting myself like a PAL GameCube and getting RGB cables for that, or you know, eventually getting one of those HDMI solutions. From what I understand, someone's also working on a component cable replacement solution for the GameCube. And I could see myself maybe getting one of those eventually, if that's the case. Because I do want my Game Boy Advance video quality better than it is. It is very, very noisy. Part of that is because of the, you know, me having to zoom in with the FrameMeister to get, you know, Game Boy games full screen here through the Game Boy interface. So the Game Boy interface software, it does have a mode that will display games full screen, but it's a lot like the original Game Boy software that Nintendo provides for the Game Boy player, where it's kind of blurry. I notice there's a lot of motion blur. The image is softer, and I don't like it at all, really. So I use the HF mode, or the SR, the speedrunner mode, which makes things look much better, much sharper, and much more responsive. That little red power-up I just got is actually a bomb. So what I'm going to do is try to save these bombs. I try to save them, not use them unless I have to. This right here, that's energy, so that's shield. I'm getting a lot of power-ups. Might as well upgrade a little bit. Those little green, you know, portals. Those are checkpoints. They're not shields or anything like that. Yes, I mean, this firepower is not all that powerful. I'm better off just using this. Alright, see ya, Andy. And your charge shot in this game is a little wonky as well. Unless it's charged up all the way, you're not going to do a whole lot with it. You should do that, John. It's a pretty cool game. There we go. The HDMI for GameCube, it is expensive. It's, I think, at least $75 to $100. But you're getting a much higher quality image. It's relatively lag-free. Those Wii to HDMIs are super cheap. They're just bare-bones converters, from what I understand. I like shmups as well. My favorite is D-Force. Game Boy Advance on Wii, you can, Will. It's just emulation. Alright. I would do a CDI live stream if I had a CDI, but I don't have a CDI. I have some CDI games and a couple of accessories, but no CDI at the moment, unfortunately. I sold my last system about 5 years ago, and I haven't been able to find another one to my liking. Not that I've really been looking. I was gonna buy one off someone last year, or the year before, and that just sort of fell through. The guy just kind of disappeared. Well, sort of disappeared. I don't know. It's in the past. If I do get a CDI, I would like to get one that's maybe RGB modded. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. I've got, like, no money right now, so... But I do have some CDI games here. I've got The Seventh Guest, I've got Mystic Midway, Rest in Pieces. I think I've got Alien Gate. Thought I had Burn Cycle, but I might not. I might have to still buy Burn Cycle. Then I've got the mouse, and I've got the digital video cartridge for the 220 models. Is it 220? I don't remember. The first Mystic Midway is actually really fun. Especially if you have the mouse to control it with. It's the second one, the Phantom Express, or whatever it's called. Ugh, it's awful. The first one's it's a fun, simple game. Gets difficult. It animates really well. It's just a fun shooting gallery. It's a game I've always had a soft spot for. I had the MS-DOS version back in the day, and then I played it when I got a CDI later on. Hotel Mario is actually kind of fun. Yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, so you can see how your charge shot doesn't do a whole lot on this guy. I mean, you're kind of better off just shooting normally. What's my setup for capturing Game Boy games? Well, I run just about everything I have into my FrameMeister or my OSSC. And right now we're using the GameCube with the Game Boy player with homebrew software to make the image look better. For regular Game Boy games, I can also do the Super Nintendo with Super Game Boy via RGB. Well, it's the CDI, man. There's cringy FMV on, like, everything. But yeah, there is cringy FMV in the first Mystic Midway as well, but you can skip through it, you know? Yeah, so my first order of action when I play this game is get powered up on my main weapon here. First upgrade is my pods. Second upgrade is me being maxed out. And then, as sort of like a survival strategy, what I do after that is I just bank all my power-ups. That way, if I take hits, like I have right here in this mini-boss, I can just get my health back. Of course, sometimes you want to wait because there are energy power-ups like here, and you'll get your health back anyway. Hey, Tony? And that's a bomb power-up. Now it looks like, I don't remember using my bomb on the previous boss, so it looks like your bombs don't carry over from level to level. You always get one as you start a new stage, but if you have 2 or 3, they don't carry over. And that's kind of a shame. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of how your firepower resets. Like, it's nice that you do get at least 1 bomb back, but I feel like I'd have much more incentive to try to upgrade my other weapons if I kept the other weapons, you know? I really like that feeling of getting fully maxed out, fully powered up in shoot-em-ups. And this game doesn't really let you do that, and it's kind of a shame if you ask me. Shinyan always made really weird design decisions like that I don't quite understand. Like, I see it in a lot of their games. I don't know if it's just like them trying to be different or whatever, but a lot of their games aren't as fun as they could be because of weird design decisions like that. So they're games that always have like the style nailed down, and like, you know, the audio production is always nailed down, but when it comes to like actual gameplay mechanics, their games always seem to suffer a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and just use our bombs here, because this boss is really annoying. There we go. Yeah, so some bosses in this game, you're gonna see me using my bombs to get rid of them as quickly as possible, because they're just irritating the fight. Alright, checkpoint. Alright, we're gonna get some health back here. Alright, another checkpoint. And more health back. Yeah, guys, for anyone just stopping in, this is the second game in the series, Iridion II. Iridion 3D is a behind-the-back, on-rails shooter. It's a much shorter game, so... yeah, it's one of those things that isn't going to last very long when you play it. And we're in the second set of stages on this one. There are 5 sets of stages, 3 levels apiece, making for 15 stages total. So this is what? I think this is level 5. So we've still got a long ways to go. This is one of those games that can be a little tiresome if you try to play it all the way through in one sitting. I feel like the game would have been a little bit better balanced if it had 12 stages instead of 15. You know, by the time you get to stage 12, you're like, alright, is it over yet? And then after you beat stage 12, which actually kind of feels like a final level, to be honest with you, there's another 3 stages, and you're just like, oh god, come on. But, I mean, you don't have to beat it in one sitting. But whenever I play shmups, I like to play them all the way through in one sitting. And when you're trying to score high in shoot-em-ups as well, generally it involves a full one-sitting playthrough as a one-credit clear. Not even gonna bother destroying these guys. They blow up into tinier little blocks or rocks, and they all take a lot of hits. And it's difficult to see them as well. What did I get hit? What did I get hit by? Seriously? Alright, I'm watching the archive on that one. Alright, like, I think I got hit by the, I think I got hit by a bad boss hitbox. I'm watching the archive right now. Hold on a sec. Oh, I can't God, I got rewind turned off. I can't watch it again. Yeah, look at that. I didn't even touch him when I got hit. That's exactly what happened, is I apparently touched the boss. So one of the things I don't like about this game is the hitboxes are really trashy. I don't know if part of that is due to the angle. You know, the pseudo-isometric angle. It's one of the things that's nice about just like something that's straight side on or straight top down. It's probably a lot easier to get the hitboxes right, because you don't have the perspective to worry about. Yeah, you can see we get a lot of points from the accuracy bonus. So you can get as little as, you know, a couple hundred or 1,000 if your accuracy is just really bad, but you know, about half our shots connected, so that gives us a B rating, apparently. Yeah, so that's one thing you gotta watch out for in this game, is you've gotta be really careful about how close you get to objects. It's the same with trying to dodge projectiles, is sometimes dodging projectiles can be a little wonky. Also, your pods that can block bullets, sometimes bullets will go through them and you'll get hit, and other times they'll absorb bullets and you'll be fine. But it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of rhythm or rhyme to it. Like, there are times where it looks like your pods should block bullets, but they don't, and then other times where it doesn't look like they should block bullets, but they do. But then other times where it doesn't look like they should block bullets, and they don't, and you get hit, and there's just... the consistency is all over the place. Which is really problematic when you're at boss fights that have lots of bullets. It's not usually that big of an issue in levels themselves. Levels themselves don't tend to get that chaotic. But the boss fights, you know, they have a tendency of just shooting out massive spreads of bullets with very little dodge room. So you have to really, you know, use your pods in this game. But the bullet patterns can be so dense that your pods won't really... they won't work that great. So this guy will follow you up to the top of the screen. That's kind of how you want to take care of him. Get him to follow you up. And let him come back down. Don't let him get too close, because those wonky ass hitboxes will bite you in the rear. You have to play it really safe. These things you just get close to and then they explode. Alright. Yeah, so you'll notice that I don't really ever keep my pods behind me like this. Like, it's good for, you know, it's good if you're trying to make sure all your shots connect. But I find it's better to have my pods up front so they can actually block bullets. Now that was actually kind of a waste. I wasted a bomb. You do get bonus points for, you know, having extra bombs in your inventory. And so if I didn't use my bomb, I would have gotten like an extra 1,000 or 2,000 points. And then I would have gotten my accuracy up as well, which had given me more points. So yeah, I didn't get my smart bomb bonus, and my accuracy bonus was lower than it could have been, so... Alright, stage 7. I guess this is about the halfway point in the game. Go ahead and upgrade so you guys can see some other weapons. Alright, mini-boss time. You really want to try to smack this guy in the face. Just like that. Otherwise, he'll basically end up cornering you, and you'll end up dying. So the best way to handle that is just use your charge shot. There we go, level 3 in this weapon. And it's kind of weak, so we're going to switch right back. Oops. See, now I kind of wish I had my my backup power-ups so I can use them as shields. Shield replenishments. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that is garbage. Yeah, so the little blue projectiles he was firing out, it's kind of like air, I guess. He was pushing me in the opposite directions. I thought I was going to die there. We've got plenty of lives, so we're fine on that front, but, you know, I'd rather not die if I don't have to. I do want to try to save all my lives for the final boss, though, because that can be a pain. Alright, because I've been doing really bad on these bosses, I'm gonna save these power-ups. Yeah, this is one of those bosses that's a little on the irritating side as well. Every time you shoot one of these panels, they pop out, and then that's what reveals the weak spot in the middle. So one thing you can do is use your bomb. One of the other weapons might be better on this boss than this one. I'm not sure, though. So if anybody out there knows, either now or on the archive, let me know. And if you watch this on the archive, post a time code so I know what you're talking about. I have not, Raymond. No, I've just been ignoring it, to be honest with you. I heard about it, but that's as much as I've heard. I've just heard about it. Although, considering all the old cast is, you know, ancient by this point, I'm not really sure what the point of it is. I mean, all the original actors that are still around are pretty much ready to croak anytime. So, I don't know. Not gonna hold my breath on it. Not to sound super negative, but I mean, I'm just I mean, I feel like it's reasonable for me to be a little apprehensive about it, you know? It is 2019, not 1996. God, it's 2019. I'm so old. Will Rick Moranis return? What does Rick Moranis do these days? Is he still alive? Does he still do anything? Remember there was a point where, like, he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. I mean, maybe he's still acting. I just haven't seen any of his movies, but... he is still alive, right? I have no idea. I don't keep up with this stuff. I wonder if my bombs do carry over, because I don't remember getting the second one on this stage. Jeez, that's way too many hits. Rick Moranis doesn't act anymore. He's a family man. The Goldbergs. I've heard of the Goldbergs, yeah. Okay. Raymond rubbing it in because, fun fact, we're closer to 2030 than we are to 2000. The new Ghostbusters is actually going to be called Ghostbusters 3, and it's a passing of the torch. Yeah, see, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I feel like Ghostbusters is just best... It's best to just leave it be. Like, you don't need to keep that series going. The originals were classics. I mean, even part 2 that people like to rail on these days is still a ton of fun. And the original Ghostbusters in particular is just amazing. Like, you don't need to touch it. Just come up with something new, you know? I just don't trust the newer generation of comedians that, you know, appear in, you know, big budget Hollywood movies these days. I feel like there's something missing. So much of the humor from a lot of the stuff in the 80s just felt so... The original Ghostbusters is a prime example of this. It's just, it felt so, like, sincere. You know, like they weren't trying to put on a show. Like, they felt like relatable people. Even with Bill Murray's crazy sarcasm, which I love. I love his sarcasm, man. It's great. But I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I just don't. I don't trust a major studio major Hollywood studio to do something that isn't predictable, that isn't aping modern trends. You know. Of course, you know, I'm always willing to eat my words. So if it comes out and it's great, then awesome. I'll go see it. But I'm like I said, I'm not holding my breath for it. For how long it takes to charge up, they should have made your charge shot a lot more powerful. Kind of like R-Type. Like, it's a little more powerful, but, like, I should have killed that snake thing in one hit, you know? For how long it took me to charge up, there's just very little point in using your charge in this game. It's just kind of like a neat little feature that doesn't seem like it was balanced properly. Like, I don't... If a feature like this is just going to be a throwaway feature, then I almost feel like it shouldn't even be in there or in a game. Like, balance is, you know, features are nice, but balance is even more important. Balance among those features is even more important. And that's something that these Iridion games seem to struggle with. I need to go through and play Nanostray 2 in particular and see if they got their balancing better in that. I mean, Nanostray 1 as well, but I remember not being impressed with Nanostray 1. I got that when I got my first DS, and I wasn't terribly thrilled with that game. Even compared to the Iridion games, I felt it was very mediocre. Maybe I was just expecting too much. I'll definitely revisit that. We'll try to do some DS streams in the future as well. We'll have to rely on emulation for that, which I don't usually do emulation here, but for DS I pretty much have to. Hey, Jules. Thanks for saying hello, man. Good to see you. Are you a god? No. Then die. Next time someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. Classic line. Brandon says, would I ever consider playing the 2009 Ghostbusters game? Yeah, I've actually wanted to play that. I haven't gotten around to it. I heard it's awesome. I heard that is like the real Ghostbusters 3. Yeah, so this stage, I think it'll take a few enemies before I get powered up here. There we go. That actually caught me off guard when I was doing my practice session earlier this week. Lots of flicker on this part. Yeah, so it also looks like you get extra lives from points in this. I wasn't quite sure about that when we first went into this. I wasn't paying attention in my practice runs. And, yeah, so we've got 6 lives. That's good. Even though we've died once or twice. And it doesn't look like your pods can absorb those yellow bullets. Ha! Thought I could squeeze through that. Apparently not. Alright. So I think we got one more set of stages after this. And then we will be done. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot to talk about right now, as far as the game's concerned. I mean, it's once you've seen a few levels, you've almost seen them all. I think that's another reason why the game just kind of like overstays its welcome a little bit longer than I think it needs to. It just feels a little unnecessarily padded out. Of course, you do have higher difficulty modes. If I wanted to, I could play it on, I think it's Ace. Is Ace the highest one? I don't remember, but there is another difficulty above this. Sinistar Unleashed? I have not played that, no. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of ways to play GBA games. You play it on the GBA. I mean, as far as backlit, you don't have to do mods. You can get an SP, you can get a DS, or you can get a DS Lite, or Game Boy Micro. Yeah. I personally play on a DSi. Not a DSi, a DS Lite. So yeah, if I actually play GBA on the go, I always play on my DS Lite. It works really well. The screen looks really good. This game actually isn't that bright either compared to other GBA games. Like if you play something like Donkey Kong Country, it's this is fairly moderate in comparison. I think it's not quite just right. I think the brightness could come down a little bit, but it's not anywhere near as garish as a lot of other GBA games are. I actually did bump the contrast up a little bit on my capture card, and I always have to pump up the saturation because of the FrameMeister. With the settings I use, it's you know, it has a tendency of desaturating things. So this might look a teensy tiny bit brighter than it normally would through a Game Boy player. Yeah, I don't really recommend the device to play GBA games on an SNES. For one, you have to do it in composite, which looks like garbage. Basically, the cartridge is actually handling all the video processing. I don't know if it's like a system on a chip or some form of... I think it's like a system on a chip. It's some kind of GBA clone. And basically the composite AV cables come right out of the cartridge itself. Unless there's been updated versions, but I don't think there have. I think what they're selling now is the same things they've been selling for years. Yeah, definitely not the recommended way to play GBA games on a TV. The charge shot, man. It is just not that good in this game. Like, for how powerful it is, I think it would be better... It would have been better for them to make it more powerful, or it would have been better for them to require you to charge up less. Like, if this was the full charge right here, it would be perfect. but it's not. You have to charge up almost twice as long to get a shot that's only mildly more powerful than constantly attacking with just your regular shot. Alright, second to last level. He's doing good, Raymond. He's doing good. Yeah, he's wrapped up in his music stuff right now. His band is back to doing things again. So he seems like he's been pretty busy. My cat is doing well. Alright, we'll see how we do here. A little bit of a boss rush on this stage. But we're going to try to save our bombs for the final boss. Do I like dogs at all? I do like dogs. I've never had a dog, but I do like dogs. Yeah, so I intentionally don't want to use my bombs, because the actual final boss itself is kind of annoying. Granted, I only did one practice run earlier this week, so I didn't quite figure out his pattern. And I think he's going to be coming up here in just a moment. And it's the return of the face. Although he looks a little bit different in this one. He's blue in Iridion 1. It might not actually be the same guy. This is where we're going to use our bombs. Yeah, you can see how it's difficult to avoid this. Like, look at that. I don't even know what you're supposed to do there, man. And we just beat Iridion II. Ever tempted by VR? Yeah, I had VR. I bought an Oculus Rift a couple years ago. And I really enjoyed it, but I ran into money issues last year and I had to sell it, unfortunately, which really sucks. It was awesome. I loved it. I'd love to get another one. So there you have it, guys. Iridion 3D and Iridion 2. Yeah. So you can use that password 4RC8 exclamation to unlock arcade and challenge mode. Challenge mode, from what I understand, is basically just a boss rush. And I actually am kind of curious if the Iridion 2 rankings are still out there. Let's see. I highly doubt it. Oh wow, the website is still up. That's actually really cool. Very cool. Well, it was a short stream, John. I'm heading out, Carlos. I might do Twitch later, but I need to record our Let's Play. And I need to actually head out to the store. So I'm going to be cutting this stream off pretty much right now. So I want to say thanks, guys, for hanging out. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Yeah, no, I wasn't really feeling it tonight, to be honest with you. My brain just wasn't really here, and I wasn't really feeling the games either. I think I just had my fill, because I already beat these games earlier in the week. And while I enjoy the games, they're not games I like to go back to very often these days anyway, but it's good hearing the music again. The music is fantastic. I need to get this music for my my game music side channel that I've got. But you know, if you're looking for, you know, unique Game Boy Advance games, you know, these should do the trick for you. There aren't a lot of shoot 'em ups on the Game Boy Advance in general, so I do recommend checking out the second one in particular. And if you're a real cartridge kind of guy, you gotta have real carts. Iridion 3D is one of the cheapest games out there. So, but yeah, I'm gonna cut this one a little short, guys. So I'm gonna get out of here right now. So as usual, thanks everyone for hanging out, and thanks everyone that's backing my show on Patreon. So thank you guys very much. As usual, if you're interested in doing that, links are in the description box as always. And likewise with all the recent live streams, super chattels. It's not the first time I've said it that way. Super chatters and channel members, thank you guys for your direct patronage as well. And I guess until the next one, guys, take it easy.